Okay, so I watched a couple of these videos and people have gone right back. I was your kind of medical candidate at GCSE, but we got to A levels and that kind of all went downhill, which seems to be the generalized story, to be honest. But I kind of was a bit stubborn, and even though chemistry was my worst grade at AS level, it was the one I stuck with. So I got rid of English Lit Lang and carried on with chemistry, biology, and psychology, which is generally what you find in people who want to do medicine but don't want to do maths. Um, so I kind of dragged my feet along with that, and throughout my A2 year, I applied for neuroscience because it was something that I was interested in. It was going to be my fifth option anyway, and got precisely 7 rejections throughout that year, which I think is probably a record. So we got to A level results day. I got BCE in biology, psychology, and chemistry in that order. I was quite proud of those results. There was some definite increases. I was only 2 marks off of getting the overall A in biology, which was so frustrating. And just about passed chemistry, so that's all I wanted. I went through clearing and went to the University of Central Lancashire in the end, which isn't far from you guys.
Yeah.
Up in Preston. Northerner girl adoption, I think I am now. And I think for me, unwittingly, I chose the best route to get into medicine. Got to have like the best 3 years of my life in Preston. I miss the north so much, and for me, it just gave me the chance to find my confidence as such, and start to kind of get back to where I was in GCSE mindset. I then, year 2, I started looking about which specific universities I should apply to, and it came to the question of, do I do the GAMSAT or do I do UCAT, as it's now known, or do I do both? Which is probably where some of you guys are at now.
Yeah.
Is that you? Yeah. So I decided against the UK, sorry, get the right one, the GAMSAT, purely because I didn't want to go through all that A-level stress again, have to learn physics, which was just a big no-go. And I got left with the UK CAT by process of elimination, but the only other problem with that was a lot of the UK CAT universities for graduate entry look to your A-level grades, which I think is a tad wrong, but there we go, that's a whole different question. So I was left with 3 universities in the country I could apply to. That was my face as well when I figured it out. So I applied to Warwick, King's College, London, and to Newcastle. I chucked in Southampton in there. Knew I wasn't going to get it, but I was like, I don't want to send in just 3 universities, so let's just chuck that in. Obviously got rejected for Southampton, rejected before interviews for Newcastle because they tend to want the higher UK CAT scores. I got a 695 in a band 1, so I was happy with it, but Newcastle weren't. And then I got offers for Warwick and King's, and now I'm in my 2nd/3rd year, so which has gone ridiculously quickly. Yeah.
I mean, you did extremely well to get 2 out of the 3 offers that you were supposedly going to get. So that's really commendable.
I'm still in a bit of shock. I didn't ever think it would happen. In fact, I'd actually put a deposit down for a room to do a master's at UCLan because I was so sure I was going to get it.
I mean, starting from the beginning of your application, what volunteering or work experience did you undertake to aid in your application?
So this is probably going to be quite contradictory for the university I'm at, and I'm pretty sure everyone knows Warwick's requirements require the 70 hours. I still don't know what they counted towards that for me, because I don't have your typical HCA volunteering in the care home role. All my work experience kind of came very kind of by chance. So what they did count, I worked as a dispenser in a pharmacy throughout my time at sixth form, just managed to get that in the 3-year gap window. And I shadowed what did I do? Oh, God, this is a long time ago now. I shadowed a neurosurgeon for 2 weeks. That was purely by chance. My aunt's an estate agent, and they happened to come into her, well, not her shop, but the shop she works at. And she was like, "Oh, my niece is looking to do." So got in there by chance. I've also shadowed a paediatrician, volunteering work sort of wise. I was a peer mentor at university. I did the UCLan Disability Ambassador, Wellbeing Ambassador scheme, sorry, and that was working with disabled students across campus. So that suited me really well. I was having a busy third year, and then just to have that on the side was really helpful. And disability is kind of what I prefer to do. Oh God, there's probably something else I'm completely forgetting, but
No,
I'd say very odd in my work experience.
it does sound like you had a vast variety of different people's experiences. For example, you said you worked in a pharmacy too. You actually shadowing practicing doctors, so it does sound like you had that diverse knowledge before actually applying to medicine. I mean, it was probably something that you knew you always wanted to do anyway, but I think it's just to back your statements up with the experiences that you've had. So in terms of like the UCAT, I mean, UCAT scores have skyrocketed in the past 2 or 3 years. Some undergraduate courses have cut off at like 3,000 now, so that's just.
Wow.
But how did you find the UCAT when you sat it?
It was very overwhelming for me, particularly because I suddenly had flashbacks to when I was 11 and I failed my 11 plus. And when I get asked to describe, like Northerners probably won't understand what the 11 plus was. Essentially, it's an exam to go into grammar school. And I always call the UK CAT the adult version of the 11 plus because it's a similar questions, a similar format. So it was a bit overwhelming, and I started off really slow in my prep. But once I think I got about a month and a half out of my exam, I was like, "Oh, hang on, no, that's a thing that's coming. I should probably do some work for this." So it was terrifying, but I knew what score I was aiming for, and it's kind of looking at what your weaknesses are and working on them. It's so tempting to sit there and do the SJT questions because they're fun and get to be a doctor for like 10 minutes. But I dragged myself through maths and abstract reasoning every day because I knew that was going to get my biggest point score increase.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound like you put a lot of effort and a lot of revision into it. Did you find any particular resources helpful, or any particular resources that better than others for your time revising?
I normally don't like promoting paid things. I'm normally very against it. But Medify honestly was the best resource for me. I think I paid £40 for 2 months, which isn't horrendous.
Yeah.
But it's a similar system to UCAT. It prepares you for what the computer's going to look like. It's an online resource, so you get used to being on a computer. That was brilliant for me. That skyrocketed my scores from what they were. I think one thing I'd say is don't go on any courses. Don't be tempted by courses that charge upwards of like £200 for one day. I was tempted, and I got a heavy discount. There we go, heavy discount on it. And I came out knowing less than I did when I went in, because these courses are essentially run by medical students or foundation doctors, and they're not UK qualified people. They just happen to have done it and got into medical school for it, so it's just not worth wasting the money on them.
Yeah, I guess we've had a few people that have said exactly what you just expressed. There's so many resources out there now, if that be books in the library or, as you say, like the Medic portal, Stats2Med, I'll provide free resources. Yes, they might be paid, which you said. Again, Medify is an excellent example of, yes, it's paid, but it teaches you the little niche things that you need to know. For example, how to use the calculator on the day, and stuff like that. I mean, the worst thing would be going in and not knowing the layout of the UK CAT. So I guess it's a given
It is.
for that.
I have to say, for my interviews, the only paid resource I used was the Green Book, and everyone's probably familiar with what I'm talking about. But I'd say while you're working up to getting the speed up on UK Cat, use the free resources to practice your kind of technique and how you work things out. Medit Portal, I rinsed for my interview. I literally sat down and went through every question they had on there. Ollie Burton's blog, I glued myself to. So that was very odd seeing him on my first week. And I'm like, I've been watching you on my computer screen for the past year, and now you're walking past me in the corridor. So yeah, it's don't. I'd say one bigger thing is just don't get tempted by those courses. They just aren't worth the money, and there's so many free resources out there. They're brilliant. You just have to be prepared to put the work in.
I mean, that's the other really good point is that you've got so many people on YouTube now from Ollie. I mean, I could name them and not on both of my hands, but even they provide a step by step resource on how you answer the questions, and even that's totally free. So I do really support your statement of there's no reason why you should pay £200-300 for these courses. I mean, in terms of your application, what do you think went well, and what do you think you could have improved on?
Oh, I think for me, I would have liked to have get some proper hands-on work experience. There's a reason why universities like Warwick like you to have that hands-on. It's because it teaches you exactly what you're going to be facing as a doctor. I've had a couple of conversations with prospective applicants, and I'm like, don't dance around the hands-on stuff, because that is what you need, and that's what exactly is going to show you kind of how to answer those questions, what you're going to be like, how you reflect on things. I had one person turn around and be like, well, I don't really want to be a HCA because bum wiping's not my thing, and I'm like, please don't apply to medical school. It did really shock me when that came out, but honestly, I would have loved to have done a HCA, and it gives you so much of a better understanding of what a doctor and the wider healthcare team does. So I think that's something I would go back and change.
Yeah, I guess just to reflect on, I think that's why Warwick is one of the most commendable graduate entry courses, because it requires everybody to hit that threshold of 70 hours. So everybody applying almost has a general grasp of what they're actually applying for and what career they're going to go into at the end of the day. So obviously you got an interview at King's and Warwick. So within your interview stage of your application, how did you find? I'm presuming they were both MMI panel. Yeah. How did you find the panel style interviews?
I have to be kind of careful what I say because I've signed non-disclosure agreements.
Right. Yeah.
But I think I can probably say is that King's is very traditional with their approach. Warwick, from my year, a couple of stations I kind of went in and thought, oh, I've not read about this before. And actually, when you go through the medical school, you do find out a bit more about the process and why they've done certain things, and it makes a lot of sense. I was nervous about my MMIs, and I remember from my Warwick interview, the first station I had, I was sitting in within a meter of the person examining me, and I lifted my hands up because I'm very kind of army when I speak. This isn't coming across very good at the moment. And I just remember looking down at my hand, and it was physically shaking. I was, this is not looking very good. But once you get past those first stations, you suddenly ease into it, and it becomes really enjoyable. I actually ended up having a conversation with one of my examiners at King's because I finished early. We both found out we were in neuroscience, so that was us sorted for the next 2 minutes. So it is nerve-wracking, but you've just got to learn to enjoy it, and then everything comes so much easier.
Yeah, I guess again, multiple people have said the exact same thing that you just said. The transfer from traditional style panel interviews where your whole half an hour begs on what's going on there, when with the MMIs you're in there for 2 minutes and then you just start you start again. So if you score amazingly or the worst in the cohort, it doesn't matter, because in another 5 minutes you're talking to somebody else. So I guess, is there anything you feel you did particularly well to prepare for this, prepare for the MMIs?
So I used the medic portal, and I got a notebook, and literally every question they listed on there, I wrote down an answer relating, using the experiences I had. So how do you unwind? Well, I play my ukulele, but I understand that I can't just sit there with ukulele and lectures. So it's like I managed to bring in some of that, because I think that was one of their tips, like how would you unwind in a clinical situation. And then it will show evidence of teamwork, or where you've taken on leadership, or how you adapted. And it was okay, in the pharmacy I had to go from being a dispenser to being on the shop floor to being a dispenser every 10 minutes, because it got so busy around Christmas. And it was just making sure that, I'm not going to rehearse the answers and sound like a robot, but I knew exactly where my brain needed to jump when the buzzwords came into effect. But I think the one big thing, if you are going to go that route, is to make sure you listen to what the question is. It's a really common pitfall to hear the word teamwork and start blabbing on about everything you've done, but you need to listen to what they're actually asking. Yeah,
I guess it's all about having the reflection on what you've done throughout up to this point. And obviously you can't tell lies, but it's almost trying to put yourself in the best light on your experiences, and if that means also called making things look bigger than they seem, I mean, that's not a crime in itself.
I think a lot of people do that, but I'd say, like, you can maybe exaggerate.
Yeah, that's it.
Never lie, because people will see straight through it, and under that pressure in there, you can automatically tell if someone is telling you the truth or if they're making it up on the spot. So, like, definitely do kind of really sit down and think, okay, although it was a minor thing that actually happened in the grand scheme of things, I'm going to nail it on this. But definitely don't lie and don't make things up. That's it. Actually, you lose your GMC registration for that. So don't do it before you've even got one.
Yeah. So I guess looking back now, is there anything you wish you would have known before you began your degree as a med student?
I think I probably would have liked to know how, it's going to sound really bad, kind of how much self-reliance there is beyond the first year clinical side. I'm very institutionalized. I've gone straight from like all the way through school, all the way through university. I haven't had a gap. So suddenly come into the clinical phase where you go into hospital, you learn something, and you come back, and then you have to do more stuff afterwards. For the first couple of months, it was me going, but surely she would have a lecture on this, and why am I, like, I missed the medical school, surely this is not how we learn medicine. But once you kind of get used to it, actually you find that this is the better way, because things actually start sticking and you don't even realize it. But I wish I'd kind of known just how much non-lecture style learning that we were going to have.
Yeah, I guess it's getting used to the learning style. Like, obviously you come from high school to college, the massive sky. It is a massive gap. And then you come from college to university again, you have to adapt their learning style. And now, I guess it's a different way you have to approach the knowledge. Instead of, obviously you came from a very in-depth degree, so you, unfortunately you're not able to cover that same depth in medicine. So I totally agree with that. So again, you've been in med school for a number of years now. Is there any particular myths or misconceptions that are like stigmatized within med school? Bit of a light-hearted question.
I think there's probably two, and I guarantee probably everyone's going to say the exact same thing as me. One is that we're all super intelligent. You kind of learn that's not the case in the first week. And then the second is that everyone works insanely hard and pulls long hours. I can guarantee I'm in bed by 10 o'clock every night, and if I'm not, I'm grumpy the next day. There's the thing of don't work hard, work smart, but it's just learning that medicine isn't like your entire life, because it does feel like that a lot. And you're constantly go, what do I need to do next? I need to go and get a sign off from this doctor. I need to go to this clinic. I need to do this. And you kind of lose normality in a sense. So I think that's kind of the biggest misconception, especially on sites like Instagram, where they're posting pretty notes and saying that they're up to like 2 o'clock in the morning working, when I can guarantee they're probably not. And that's a danger, I think, when looking at medicine, is that it's now becoming these rose gold tinted glasses to pre-med. And it's not, you're still a normal person. You just tend to be a bit more sucked into a degree than anyone else normally would.
Yeah, I think, again, going back to what Ollie said right at the start of this guest lecture series, he said, getting in is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Once you're in, it's almost like just a stretched out degree to interpret his works. But getting in, there's so much stigma around it. Again, you said people are offering £1,000 courses. it's very stigmatizing that.
Yeah.
Because of the competitiveness, the bottleneck of all these so-called the golden class degree of being a medical student. But I guess it's having the knowledge from you and all the other MS students that have gone through it to say, well, we're the same as you, just studying a longer degree and coming out with a different title. So I guess a good follow-up question to that would be, what keeps you motivated in such an intense course? Like, do you have any extracurriculars? How do you find like balancing them?
Yeah, if you asked me this in first year, I'd have been like, no, I don't have a life outside, and I made that very wrong decision to do that. But coming into second year, I started to join kind of wider societies outside med school, and it's those things that keep me going. So I have really good contacts with Great Ormond Street. Pediatrics is something I want to do. I'm a pocket rocket. It's the specialty for me. And so like every so often we'll work with them with events, and I'll be like chatting to some of the clinical staff who are where I want to be in 10 years. And it really confuses me how the hell I got into that position. It's really inspiring to see that. And then also even getting positive little like tidbits off the patients when you chat to them, like, oh, you're such a lovely person, and just feeling like, oh, actually maybe I am learning something here, maybe I might make half a doctor one day. And it's just trying to find those bits in every day just to keep you positive and motivated.
Perfect. Yeah. So I guess the caveat to that, with such a long and strenuous course, how do you find time to plan for like rest or self-care?
I write down every week what drastically needs to be done, and then after that I'll plan things for me to do. So like going swimming or cooking or just wandering around Wilko, which is a weird hobby, but it's something I used to do in my undergraduate, to just get up and wander around Preston, and I time them in, and then I time the study time in. That's making a mental note for me, like, hang on, okay, yes, it'd be nice to get 6 presentations done or whatever, like this isn't going to keep you going for a long time. And that's come through going out a lot, that's come through a lot of lessons learned. That's not me being amazing, I've really screwed up to this point. So it's just that. And then also I kind of have a time limit each evening when I stop working, so it tends to be around 9, half 9, and then I'll just sit down, watch telly, have dinner, and then go to bed. So it's just making sure you have those limits in.
Yeah, I completely agree. I guess to summarize, it's just about having that mental note of this degree isn't your life.
Yes.
This degree is hard and it requires a lot of effort and time, but it isn't your life. You need to experience other things.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with the strategy that you've imposed of setting a time limit, planning the degree around your life, not planning your life around the degree. That makes sense.
Yeah. I'd say also keep in touch with non-medic friends as well. I've got my gang for my undergraduate degree, and they're like my second family, and I'll complain to them about the medical degree. And what's best is that medics complaining to each other about the degree only gets you so much sympathy because everyone's in the same. Whereas if you complain to non-medics, you get a load of love and a load of care. So that's really nice.
Well, top tip.
Yeah.
So I guess what does a week in the life of a Warwick Med student look like then? Obviously, they should be pre-COVID, of course.
I was going to say that's a bit different now. To Warwick's credit, they have tried to keep it as normal as possible, so I have to kind of give them some credit there. So for pre-clinical stage, it's lectures, but Wednesday where you have the day off, from Friday you're at the hospital learning clinical skills and anatomy. And once you hit the clinical stage, you have a day a week where you're in GP practice. These tend to be one of my favourite days of the week, even though GP is not up there with my specialties, but they get you in the GP seat, you're behind the desk and you're running that consultation, which is mind-blowing, like a year and a half into a medical degree. And then the other days of the week, it will be going to, like, and now it's COVID, going to your assigned ward that you've been given. And then you'll be doing things like helping the F1s there, so it'll be like taking bloods, putting in cannulas. And then it will be also be practicing for your benefit as well. So taking histories, doing examinations. I have touched so many people's stomachs this year, it's untrue, which kind of sounds really pervy, but I just happened to be on a gastro ward, so that's all we did. And I think the best day of the year for me so far has been, we were in the ward on the hottest day of the year, and we were helping put cannulas in and things, because the British heat actually affects people's health, where they don't get enough hydration in, kidneys shut down, etc. So we were putting in IVs to help stop that, and they came around with ice poles to our ward. So we got to join in with that. So it's not every day is the same, but I guess that kind of keeps you on your toes.
Yeah. So I guess, what is there anything you'd recommend highly from Warwick? Like within the degree course itself, obviously, it is very unique in that you get you get to see patients right from the get-go. With other med courses, you have to do preclinical and then go into your clinical phases. So is there anything you found particularly like surprising, or anything that you found good about the degree?
I'm not going to say the thing that Ollie probably said about peer support and I think you've got Abbie coming on later as well.
Yeah,
there we go. They'll probably all say the same thing. I'll try and do something different. So I think first year is intense at Warwick, and that'll be the one thing that everyone tells you. But although it's intense, a lot of the time you want to pull your hair out and cry in a corner, which I may have done a couple of times. Actually, when you get onto the wards, you know what you need to be doing. So we have OSCEs in the first year, which is really odd for a medical school to have, but because you were drilling all these clinical skills in like the space of 4 days, even though the medical school told us not to cram the OSCEs, we did anyway. That they're now ingrained, and I can't forget them. Now I'm going to forget them all now I've said that, but I haven't had to look at my clinical skills workbook. So although it is intense, actually it works out better for the long run, because you've got that knowledge there and you can sort of be useful on the wards and in the GP practice.
Yeah, I guess some people look at medicine as a career, but it's also an art in that way. You need to learn skills, and I think Warwick's very commendable in that they drill these skills into you, so you know the art of medicine when you actually become and you graduate. So I guess where do you see yourself in the future then? Where's your vision going into the future?
I was going to say, actually, with regards to the art form thing, it's kind of funny, because you ask any Warwick medic and they say first year is a dance. You just dance away through the OSCEs, and then after that you actually have to have some sort of clinical competence. Future, it will be in paediatrics. My ultimate dream job is to work at Great Ormond Street. I think the hospital's incredible. I think what they do there is just amazing. It will probably be down the neuro route. Brains just continue to fascinate me. You put an MRI scan of brain in front of me, and I'd love it more than a CT scan of a bowel. And whether it will be surgery or medicine, I don't know. It's not something that I'm too keen to decide on yet. But I also really want to keep my passion for science outreach in my degree and steal Chris and Zam Van Telekin's job on Operation Ouch. That is not your common dream job, but that's my plan.
Yeah, I guess just to touch back on the what work in general, like again, you've experienced what an undergraduate degree is like. It's very competitive between each student, really. So, how does that differ at Warwick? Obviously, med school is going to be very competitive between between the cohort. But did you find it less competitive, or do you feel like there is still that element of everybody competing for the best grade at the end of the day?
Kind of weird because I didn't have that competitive side in my undergraduate. I think a lot of people end up going to UCLan over. It's going to sound really bad. I love this university with all my heart, but a lot of people have come through clearing. That's their like main marketing drive around entrances is clearing. So you don't get too much of it. But coming to Warwick, I did notice competitiveness. But what's nice is that because the first year where it is so intense, your main goal is to push through and pass. So everyone sort of bands together rather than hiding resources from each other or like locking notes in lockers and things. So it's only when you get kind of clinical that maybe people start of competing in their minds against each other. But that's natural. It's when it comes to our interviews for foundation program, it's like if there's only one opportunity for one person, you're gonna want it because it's gonna give you that extra point. So, but it's not cutthroat. It's not we're all climbing on top of each other. Warwick don't rank us. It's not like I know there's another university out there that cuts at the bottom 20% of the cohort off. It's not what they do here. So we're not out kind of for each other's backs and the thing. So it's good competition.
Yeah, I guess that's the difference coming from an undergraduate degree where you are wanting to hit those 70% above, and unfortunately there is that stigma of say biomedical science where you need to hit that first, and unfortunately if everybody's writing amazing assignments, then they're going to have to pull it down a bit. So I mean, again, even the teachers say a first is supposed to mean something. So if everybody's getting a first, it doesn't mean for the people that deserve it. So I totally.
I was going to say that's an important point. Is I only got a 2-1 for my degree. So I did you might have like clocked already, but I did neuroscience, not biomed. That's probably why I didn't have the competition. But I think medicine is now. It's going to take a while, especially for the undergraduate stage. But places like King's, places like Warwick, look at the person. So that's why they say a first or a 2-1. So they understand that people, if you've got that experience and you've got life, like you're an interesting person, as my old teacher used to say. They love that because it means you have life experience behind you and you're more likely to be able to relate with the patients as such. So I think although it is really good to get these like amazing marks, and believe me, I would have loved to have got a first. I was kicking myself when I found out I got a 2-1. I think having that wider experience and having sort of experience like things you can say, oh yeah, I did this when I was in, is so much more important than being at 90% for your undergraduate.
Yeah, completely agree. So I guess for future medical students watching this video, are there any golden pieces of advice you would give them just in the application and their first day starting out?
Be enthusiastic and be you. Everyone, I think, kind of puts on this act when there are interviews about being professional and things, but I was giggling, I was smiling all the way from my interview and still got in. So try and be a doctor as such. Just be you, be relaxed, and show enthusiasm. That they're not looking for pre-made doctors, they're looking for people who've got potential to get there and go the distance. And I suppose for the first week in medical school, enjoy it, relish the fact you can call yourself a medical student. Don't work too hard in that first week. Just be prepared to start working afterwards. But it's just, the academics are there, but they're not the be all and end all. I'd much rather have a doctor who had to go and look something up but was really lovely to me than a doctor who knew everything but couldn't talk to me normally.
Yeah, I guess for Warwick specifically, is there any like take home tips you would give for students starting their first year?
I suppose make use of resources that are there for you. The peer teaching is it's taught by students who want to be there, who sign up to do it. So that saved my life a lot during first year. And I suppose just enjoy it and relish being on the ward for the first time, relish using your stethoscope for the first time, take that cheesy picture. Don't worry about anyone saying like the hard work and the graft are going to come later. Just enjoy it. I know that's not an amazing piece of advice and it's not going to save the world, but I wish I'd enjoyed more than my first year.
No, I mean, I guess the hardest part is getting there, and once you're there, it's you put the hours in, so go and celebrate, I guess. Yeah.
I suppose a lot of people do kind of come across imposter syndrome in that first week. I was questioning a lot of like, do I really deserve to be here? Are they sure they got the right person? But medical schools do have a thorough like sort through of all their applicants' data. So if you got in, that wasn't my mistake.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just like to say a massive thank you for taking the time of your evening to come and speak to me.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I mean, so is there anywhere like our viewers can find you online or get in contact with you if they have any other questions?
Yeah. So I believe you've got me on Instagram, so I assume you'll put the handle there. I'm really happy to be contacted by them. I have a YouTube channel. It's a bit kind of silent at the moment, but I plan to add a few more bits and bobs as the years come. And I also have a website, which is www.medbeblog.com. Yes. And I have written essentially a diary of every single week in medical school so far. So you can kind of find out what it's like to be a first year without any rose gold tint, because I will tell you when I cried. Yeah, I'm more than happy to be contacted through there.
That's perfect. I'll be sure to add the links, and people will get in contact with you, then it's there for them.